Grayce Uyehara was born in Ritsuko, Canada on July 4, 1919 in Stockton, California. She attributed her outgoing, strong personality to the progressive politics of her mother's area of origin in Kagoshima, Japan. At the outbreak of the war, Grayce and her family were forcibly confined in the Rohr concentration camp in Arkansas. At Rohr, Grayce helped organize youth activities, but she also spurned efforts to have her marry a minister because, as she said, I still had a bad streak. She said she became fascinated with the boys from Los Angeles, and behind her mother's back, she used to hang out with the Uyehara types, as she put it. From Rohr, Grayce eventually joined one of her brothers attending Temple University in Philadelphia. In 1946, Grayce married Hiroshi Uyehara, who she had briefly met at Rohr. After completing her master's degree from the University of Pennsylvania, she and Hiro started a family, yet she remained active in community work by assisting in forming the Philadelphia chapter of the JACL. Having attended the JACL convention in 1978, where the first proposal for redress was adopted, Grayce's involvement in the redress campaign spanned the entirety of the effort that culminated with President Ronald Reagan signing the Civil Liberties Act of 1988. During this involvement, Grayce became the heart of the redress effort. She injected her personal qualities of enthusiasm, persistence, a commitment to hard work, and a steadfast belief that this campaign would be successful. These qualities were evident from her first involvement as a district council representative with JACL's National Committee for Redress, to her position as the executive director of the JACL Legislative Education Committee. Grayce's devotion to the success of redress caused her to retire from her job as a social worker to spend even more time to coordinate the redress effort on the East Coast. She reasoned that, quote, if you are to be successful, it means you have to be willing to take risks. And if you're not willing, then forget it, end quote. Grayce's diligence caught the attention of people like Min Yasui and Mike Masaoka, who suggested she be appointed as the executive director of the JACL Legislative Education Committee that was formed specifically to provide direct lobbying for redress. In that role, which began in 1985, Grayce was involved in every aspect of the redress campaign, from organizing the grassroots efforts by JACL chapters, to meeting with members of Congress, to gathering endorsements of support from organizations, to outreach efforts, encouraging others to secure the support of their congressional representatives, to fundraising, and the never-ending speaking engagements. Grayce spent 12 to 14-hour days commuting on a weekly basis from her home in Westchester, Pennsylvania, to Washington, D.C., until success was finally achieved with the passage of the Civil Liberties Act of 1988. In her modesty, Grayce never took credit for her towering contributions. It is with gratitude that we thank her for it now. Through all of this, Grayce was clear that her commitment to redress couldn't have happened without the support of her husband, Hiro, who she described as a strong, quiet man who did all the things to maintain the household during her tenure with the Legislative Education Committee in Washington, D.C. Grayce once said that the legacy of redress is that public policy can be affected by the citizenry. If you're not afraid, she said, you will gain from the experience. And for those who were involved in the campaign, it gave them confidence and the strength to get involved elsewhere. We remember Grayce for her fiery spirit and the genuine warmth she exuded among her many friends at JACL conventions such as this. And we will never forget that at an important juncture in the history of Japanese Americans, Grayce Uyehara gave her heart and toil to a cause that will define our community forever.